the Guianas, a land of shadows and secrets. Beneath the canopy of endless rainforests and along its forgotten coasts lies a region steeped in mystery. Here, ancient superstitions blend with the scars of colonial conquest. Wars are waged in silence, and rituals of the unknown persist. These are the dark chapters of the Guianas, where reality and myth collide, and where the past refuses to stay buried. In the Guianas, the spirit world is not just a belief, it is a living force. Across the region, indigenous tribes and descendants of enslaved Africans maintain traditions that date back centuries. The jungles are said to be alive with spirits, protective guardians, vengeful entities, and creatures of folklore. Among these, the Kanaima is the most feared. In Guyanese legend, the Kanaima is a vengeful spirit or assassin cursed to enact brutal revenge, sometimes over generations. Victims are said to die slowly, afflicted by strange illnesses or unexplained accidents. In Suriname, similar tales persist. Obeya, a spiritual practice brought by enslaved Africans, blends elements of magic, healing, and curses. While often misunderstood, it remains a powerful force in the region, with practitioners both feared and revered. Even today, stories of hauntings and curses weave their way into modern life, a reminder that in the Guianas, the line between myth and reality is razor thin. The jungles of the Guianas have seen battles that the world has forgotten. In the 1980s, Suriname was torn apart by a secret civil war. The conflict, known as the Surinamese Interior War, was fought between the government and the Jungle Commando, a rebel group led by Ronnie Brunswijk. The war was brutal, with civilians caught in the crossfire. Villages were burned, and thousands of Maroons, descendants of escaped enslaved Africans, fled into exile. The scars of this war remain hidden under the green canopy of the rainforest. But the wars didn't stop there. In the borderlands between Guyana, Venezuela, and Brazil, a quiet conflict brews over territory and resources. Venezuela claims a vast portion of western Guyana, an area rich in gold and oil. Though no shots have been fired in recent years, the tension simmers, a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. The Guianas are not just lands of superstition, they are lands of ritual. In French Guiana, the descendants of enslaved Africans have preserved secret societies where initiation rites and ceremonies are shrouded in mystery. Some say these rituals grant protection, power, or even the ability to commune with spirits. In Guyana, the practice of spiritual baths is common. People seek out shamans or elders to cleanse them of curses or bad energy. These rituals often involve herbal mixtures, chants, and offerings to unseen forces. But not all rituals are benevolent. There are whispers of dark ceremonies where curses are cast and power is sought at any cost. Some claim that deep in the jungle, forbidden rituals summon entities best left undisturbed. One of the darkest chapters in the history of the Guianas lies on a small island off the coast of French Guiana. Devil's Island, part of the French penal colony system, was a place of despair and death. From 1852 to 1953, France sent its most dangerous criminals and political prisoners to this remote outpost. Conditions were hellish. Disease, starvation, and abuse were rampant. Few ever escaped, and those who tried were often swallowed by the shark-infested waters surrounding the island. One of its most infamous prisoners was Alfred Dreyfus, a French army officer falsely accused of treason. His wrongful imprisonment became a symbol of injustice, but for thousands of others there was no redemption, only death. Today the Guianas face battles of a different kind. Illegal gold mining has turned parts of the rainforest into a wasteland. Mercury poisons the rivers, killing fish and threatening the health of indigenous communities. Yet the jungle fights back. It is said that miners often fall victim to strange accidents, trees collapsing without warning, equipment breaking mysteriously, and workers disappearing in the night. Some blame the unstable environment, but locals whisper that the forest spirits are exacting their revenge. Meanwhile, French Guiana's rocket launches from the Guiana Space Center symbolize a clash of worlds, the push for modernity against the preservation of ancient traditions and ecosystems. The Maroons, descendants of enslaved Africans who escaped the brutality of colonial plantations, are among the most resilient people in the Guianas. In Suriname, French Guiana, and Guyana, these runaway slaves formed independent communities in the dense jungles where they could not be reached by colonial forces. These Maroon villages were built on the principles of freedom and defiance, using guerrilla warfare to resist the colonial oppressors for centuries. The Maroons' resistance was fierce, forcing colonial powers to sign treaties that recognized their autonomy, but their fight did not end there. Even in the modern era, the Maroons continue to defend their land, their culture, and their rights, often clashing with governments and powerful industries, seeking to exploit the jungle they once fought to protect. Equally fierce in their resistance are the indigenous communities of the Guianas, the Arawak, Carib, Warao, and Wayana peoples, to name a few. For centuries, they have fought to preserve their land and traditions against colonization, displacement, and environmental destruction. Today, they continue their struggle, battling illegal logging, mining, and the encroachment of agribusiness. Their forests are being stripped away, their rivers poisoned, and their ways of life threatened. Yet they remain determined. Indigenous leaders like Shamsher Rajkumar of the Wapichan people in Guyana are at the forefront of this resistance, organizing protests against mining companies and calling for land rights and environmental protections. These leaders are the modern-day guardians of the jungle, standing against the forces that seek to exploit the land for profit. In Guyana, the struggle for autonomy and justice is tangled in a complex web of politics, race, and resources. The country's oil boom has brought immense wealth, but it has also brought corruption, inequality, and division. The indigenous populations and Afro-Guyanese communities, long marginalized, are now demanding a fair share of the country's newfound riches. They fight for land rights, for proper representation in government, and for protection against the environmental degradation caused by unchecked oil exploration. But the battle is far from over. The political system remains deeply divided, and many fear that the wealth generated from oil may only benefit the elite, leaving the rest of the population to suffer. In the streets of Georgetown, a new generation is rising, calling for change, for justice, and for a future that includes everyone. Despite the darkness that shrouds the Guianas, there is another quieter force at work, a slow but determined rebirth. Across the region, communities are finding new ways to survive, to resist, and to thrive. Grassroots movements are pushing back against the destruction of the environment, advocating for sustainable practices and the protection of sacred lands. In French Guiana, ecotourism has become a way to preserve the rainforests while generating income for local communities. In Guyana, young entrepreneurs are leading the charge for eco-friendly businesses, proving that sustainability and development can go hand in hand. There is hope in the Guianas, a flicker of light that refuses to be extinguished. The struggles of the past are not forgotten, but they are transforming into a new kind of fight. A fight for a future where the people, the land, and the spirits of the jungle can coexist, protect, and thrive together. The Guianas may be a forgotten corner of South America, but they are not alone in their struggle. Global solidarity is crucial. As the climate crisis accelerates, the preservation of the Guyana's rainforests is not just a local issue, it is a global one. Activists around the world are working to raise awareness about the destruction of these lands, calling for international pressure to halt illegal logging, mining, and land grabs. The fight for the Guianas is a fight for the future of our planet. It is a reminder that the struggles of the people who call these lands home are connected to all of us. We are responsible for protecting what remains, for amplifying the voices of those who have been silenced, and for ensuring that the beauty and power of the Guianas endure for generations to come. The Guianas are not merely the forgotten lands of South America, they are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. From the shadow of colonialism to the fight for land and rights today, the people of the Guianas continue to defy the forces that would see them fade into obscurity. In the midst of darkness, they shine brightly, a beacon of resistance, rebirth, and hope. The Guianas story is one of survival, but also one of transformation. The battle is far from over, and the future is still being written. The Guianas are a paradox, lands of unparalleled natural beauty, but also lands haunted by their past. The ghosts of colonization, slavery, and war linger here, shaping the lives of those who call this region home. But there is also hope. The Guianas are stewards of one of the last great wildernesses on Earth. Their rainforests hold secrets that could heal the planet, from medicinal plants to untapped biodiversity, and their people, resilient and proud, continue to fight for recognition, justice, and a brighter future. The Guianas may be forgotten by the world, but they are far from silent. Before we reach the conclusion of this journey, there is one more chapter that must be told. Beyond the myths, wars, and environmental battles lies a hidden underworld, a shadow economy that thrives in the dark corners of the Guianas. This is a world of smugglers, traffickers, and secretive deals, fueled by desperation, greed, and the region's isolation. From illegal gold mining to human trafficking, the underworld of the Guianas is as much a part of its identity as the jungles and rivers themselves. Gold has been both a blessing and a curse for the Guianas. Beneath the soil lies wealth beyond measure, but extracting it has come at an enormous cost. Illegal gold mines, often controlled by criminal networks, operate deep in the jungle, far from the eyes of the law. Here, miners endure brutal conditions, working long hours for meager pay. Mercury, used to extract the gold, poisons not just the workers, but entire ecosystems. Rivers run toxic, and fish that once fed entire communities now carry the seeds of death. But the allure of gold is too strong. The profits fuel organized crime, and the jungle becomes a battleground as rival groups fight for control. Violence is common, but the stories rarely make headlines. In these hidden mines, life is cheap, and the jungle keeps its secrets. The Guianas are crossroads, where the borders of three nations blur into lawless gray zones. This makes them fertile ground for human trafficking. Women from Brazil, Venezuela, and even as far as Asia are lured to mining towns with promises of work, only to find themselves trapped in the sex trade. These towns, hidden deep in the jungle, are places of desperation where the law holds little sway. Traffickers exploit the region's poverty, offering false hope to those with nowhere else to turn. For many, escape is a distant dream, and the jungle becomes both prison and grave. The Guianas are also a key link in South America's drug trade. Cocaine from Colombia and Venezuela flows through these remote territories. Destined for Europe and North America, the vast jungles provide the perfect cover for clandestine airstrips and smuggling routes. Rivers become highways for boats carrying illicit cargo, and corrupt officials turn a blind eye in exchange for a share of the profits. But this trade comes with violence. Rival cartels and local gangs battle for territory, leaving a trail of bloodshed in their wake. For the people of the Guianas, the drug trade is both a lifeline and a curse, offering wealth to some while destroying the lives of many. Even the seas of the Guianas hold their secrets. Along the coast, ghost ships, abandoned vessels left to rot, are a haunting reminder of maritime crimes. These ships often carried illegal cargo, drugs, weapons, or trafficked humans. When the heat became too intense, the crews would abandon them, leaving behind evidence of their shadowy trades. For local fishermen, these derelict ships are both a hazard and a symbol of the lawlessness that pervades the region. They are reminders that even the ocean here is a battleground. But even in this underworld of crime and exploitation, there are those who fight for redemption. Local organizations and activists work tirelessly to rescue trafficking victims, rehabilitate miners, and expose the corruption that fuels the darkness. Indigenous communities, long marginalized, are reclaiming their lands and traditions, standing against the forces that threaten their way of life. Their struggle is a reminder that the human spirit can endure even in the face of overwhelming odds. The underworld of the Guianas is a reflection of its history, a place of both despair and resilience. These hidden battles fought in the shadows shaped the region as much as its jungles and rivers. As we move toward the conclusion of this journey, let us remember the Guianas are not just a forgotten corner of the world, they are a crossroads where light and darkness collide and where the fight for survival never truly ends. The Guianas are more than just a forgotten corner of South America. They are a reminder of humanity's capacity for both destruction and resilience. Beneath their shadows lie lessons of greed and consequence, of survival and hope. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the dark chapters of the Guianas. Until next time, remember, the stories we ignore are often the ones we need to hear the most.